1954 California Values Act. It welcomes and supports students without regard to their immigration status. And 3, it states that the local Irvine Police Department, which is one step further it went, because current UC policy is that UC police should not be involved in this. But we asked that the local Irvine Police Department should not enter into an agreement with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, take other joint efforts with federal, state, or local law enforcement agencies to investigate, detain, or arrest individuals for violation of federal immigration law. Okay. Basic requests, I think. This is the point that I want to make. The most important point about this is that there are 600 or more, I don't know the exact number, Dreamer students on this campus. And considering that probably over half of them don't live on campus, they would be under the jurisdiction of Irvine PD. I think we need to, I would suggest that ASUCI pass a similar resolution stating that they back the University of California policy. It is not a very controversial thing. The University of California, it has this position. Those 3 things are exactly what the University of California does, but for campus police. If you are so interested, I would encourage you to pass a similar resolution of this body. I think it would be a strong statement that we are not a campus that wants to be something that's unsafe for people that are undocumented status. Okay. I don't know if you've ever had to call the police because you had a crime occur to you. I have. I was burglarized once. You don't want to be in a situation where you have a crime occur to you and not be able to call the police because of you or someone near you has a undocumented status. Thank you.
So, just for future reference, again, during public comment, we cannot respond in any way that includes nonverbal cues. Are there any members of the public who wish to attend? Yes.
Hi everyone. You'll have to excuse me. It's my first time actually coming up here in front of everyone. I am a first-year student. My name is Ricky. First of all, I'm a first-year student here at UCI, and I am also one of the directors of the state of California for March for Our Lives, student-led organization. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. So basically, we have been working on a small event, and it would be a small tour with the students in Parkland, Florida that were victims of the Parkland shooting are coming around the country in an effort to get students to vote, and we really would love for UCI and just Orange County to be one of the stops. Basically, the plan would be to have get out and vote rally with a variety of celebrity appearances, acts, and musical performances, obviously, and we would also like to help bring resources to the students of UCI, such as hiring buses that would take the students out to early voting. I really do think that these coming elections, we need more and more students of UCI to be participating and getting out and voting, and more of that civic engagement. And with this big event, we make that possible. I also do understand that to have events like this, there's a new policy, which means that it has to go through 6 weeks in advance. But considering that we do have the elections in such a short of time, I think that hopefully there's a resolution for this, and maybe we can even get some of you on board. And I'm working on getting March for Our Lives UCI, an official organization here on campus, which I'm still working on that paperwork. So basically, they'd still be coming out as an outside organization. And I also don't know if maybe it'd be easier if the national team were to be in contact with a lot of you too. But I just think it'd be a great opportunity and a great way to bring more resources to the students of UCI. Thank you.
Are there any members of the public who wish to address the sign up this time?
So, hi, my name is Tin Hong. I used to be with AS. Yeah, okay, I got a message. I won't say their name, but he would say, okay, quote, that humanities senator is on point, end quote. Okay, so with that out of the way, I just want to let you all know that despite what you might have heard about me, I am a normal person. I did some stuff for AS. and that's about it. Some of you also want me to give a talk, which I'm not really sure about, but here goes. So, thank you all for listening to me and, actually looking at me, because I'm definitely not on a TV screen or anything. And I would just like to welcome you as the latest step in a very grand experiment. That this experiment is known as democracy, and it is the nutty idea that the people who we govern should have a say in how government works. It's a crazy idea because it involves a whole mess of additional bureaucracy and additional steps that you don't normally would have to do if you want to have. But yet, here we are. Well, here you are. I am sorry, I'm no alumni. I can't talk like that anymore. Here you are, as the representatives of the student body, elected by your peers to represent them in this official forum. You will face many, many problems and many, many challenges. And it will be a very lonely path, because not many people will understand what you're going through. And yet, here you are, with compatriots who all have the same challenges as you, and who you will be working with for the next year, and possibly more into the future. I would hope you do more if this is something you find you enjoy. But the students of UCI will always need their champions, and that champion is now you, because you have been endowed with the power of the students that you represent to work as a team, because all of you are your own separate champions, and to represent them and to see if this experiment in democracy shall succeed or fail. The time of me and all of my predecessors has led up to this moment where you all are sitting today. We have dreamed that you would have a peaceful and happy life at this campus, and it has come to fruition. But it is not good enough for us, and it is not good enough for you all, because students will always need your help. They will need the help of those in power, and they will need you to help propel their voice and uplift them to a greater and brighter future. But again, it will be hard, because a democracy requires informed public, and it requires passionate officials. The informed public part, there can be many details about, but the passionate officials is up to you all, and very, very few else. Because you may be in this position, you may be completely new, and you don't know what you're going to do, but that's fine. You have a whole team of people. We can help you learn what's in here, but we cannot give you what's in here. You have to find your own path for why these people matter to you and why you want to serve as a representative in this organization. And trust me, it will be extremely rewarding. I came here every day excited, sometimes a little anxious, but always knowing that there were people who were counting on me to do a good work, and I would get that done. I hope you all find that joy, and I hope you all find what it is that keeps you moving forward and keep coming back to this room, despite the pettiness, despite the bureaucracy, because people are relying on you. Even if they don't know you exist, even if they don't know your names, they will know your actions, because you have chosen to stand above your peers as the first among equals, and I believe you is necessary to do what is right by them. So I thank you in taking on this responsibility. It is a long, lonely path, but this is the very first step. You have taken it, and while me and all your predecessors can no longer help you as much, you all are strong, young adults with bright futures to do just that. You continue to build a world even we couldn't imagine. So thank you. Yeah.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to address the Senate at this time? Hearing and seeing none, we will now move on to executive officer reports. Are there any executive officers who would like to report at this time?
Yes. So, hi, I'm Annie. So SPFB's meetings is every Tuesday from 3 to 5. So thank you for the senators who showed up last Tuesday. We already start the process of reviewing the clubs who have already applied for. Mental health commissions will booth at Dot Health at Eaters Wellness Fair, which is hosted by UCI Student Wellness. Next Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Pacific Forums. They are also working with Art with Impact to have movies for mental health. So the events will take place in November. And Housing Security Commission, so they are meeting Dr. Basolo today to discuss about the housing insecurity survey we did last year to get more analysis of the data to present it to the Long Range Development Plan, LRDP, regarding housing. LRDP is also behind the housing being built in phase 4, so it's opposite from our 6. We hope to build more affordable housing for students looking at the years ahead. As facts, interview will be tomorrow and Monday, so we hope to wrap that up soon with the joint committees so we can send over the nominees list to Karen by next Thursday, so a week from now.
Thank you. Are there any other executives who wish to give a report at this time?
The same reports as Tuesday.
Yes, Vice President Woods?
Yes. Howdy, y'all. So right now we're still working on voter reg stuff. So obviously that will be continuing until October 22nd because that's the last day to register to vote. We got the ballot poll link all up on that ASUCI website. At this current moment, we are also boothing on Ring Road. We'll be doing that for the remainder of this week as well as next week. We're putting up all of our physical material because our graphics are already up. Those are our primary things right now, and working with the workers to support them in anything that may be coming up within the following weeks.
All right, thank you. Are there any other executive officers who wish to give a report at this time? Hearing and seeing none, we'll now move on to special committee reports. There are currently no special committee standing. So we'll now move on to section 5, old business. We currently have no items under old business. So we'll now move on to item 6, new business. Item 1, we have a representative from the University of California Student Association, Salim Mohammed, who will be presenting to us.
And do y'all have something so we can connect?
Oh, yes. If you would like to connect, you should be able to connect via HDMI.
All right, hello everybody, good afternoon. Sorry that I'm standing right behind you, that's so awkward. My name is Salim Mohammed. I am the statewide organizing director for the University of California Student Association. I wanted to go on a whim and say that you all have heard of UCSA before? Maybe? Yes. Can I show your hand? Can I see if you heard of UCSA? Great. Can anybody tell me what UCSA does? If you have any idea, other than how?
Okay.
Ms. Woods. Yes.
One of the major efforts that UCSA does is lobbying in Sacramento. Most notably is the Student Lobby Conference, which I myself attended, as well as a few other senators here.
Great, thank you all so much. So again, my name is Salim Mohammed. I'm the statewide organizing director for the University of California Student Association. We are the only and the largest association that is really designed to make sure that students have a voice and an advocate on behalf of students, not just with state stakeholders, but also with the UC. So we play a pretty significant role. My goal here today, UCSA works, why it matters, right? And hopefully to convince you that there's room for us to be working together beyond what we're already doing together. If you don't know, a portion of every student's fees inside the UC system is going to fund UCSA, which is tremendous, right? And a lot of folks don't realize that students are literally funding an entire organization to work on the behalf of students, right? So students should have a say-so in this organization in the same way students should have more of a say-so in how the university operates. So today I just want to give you all a preview or kind of like a glimpse of some of the work that we have planned for this year, how we think that you can engage and how we can be better collaborative partners, and really what we can do to enhance the life of students. So really long, I don't like long presentations, so I'm gonna be really quick and try to get us to the point of mutual understanding. So just a little bit about myself. Again, Salih Muhammad, I'm the statewide organizing director. What my job is to make sure that students are winning our campaigns. Meaning that when students want to see a change in the experience that students have on campuses, whether it's at Irvine or somewhere else in the UC system, then we actually have a process, a system, a structure, and a protocol to ensure that students can get the kind of wins that we desire. My background is I'm an alumni of UC Berkeley. I graduated Cal in 2013. And when I was at Cal, I did a lot of work with the Black Student Union as well as like various like progressive, multicultural like coalition building. And since I graduated, I've been doing work with Black students throughout the UC system, and we've been able to secure some significant gains in terms of changing how the UC interacts with Black students and what kind of resources are available. So my skill set is organizing and organizing with on behalf of and coaching and developing students. And I'm also a teacher, a high school teacher. So a little bit about UCSA. UC Student Association started in the 1960s on the heels of the free speech movement. If you haven't heard of the free speech movement, the free speech movement was a statewide student movement that was pressed the line around students having the right to have a voice in how UC's decisions were being made. Students have a right to have a voice in the making of UC decisions. So you'll hear a word like shared governance, which is this idea that when UC makes a decision, it shouldn't be a bunch of admin who are being paid $200,000 a year making decisions around the lives of students, that students should be at the table, workers should be at the table, faculty should be at the table, etc., right? If you could pause for a moment and think about how much your tuition is, right? Whether you pay for it out of pocket or you have financial aid, tuition is really high. What a lot of students don't recognize is right now, students are putting more money to fund UC than the state is or any other stakeholder. And yet students are the only ones that are almost completely left out of the decision-making process when UC is making decisions. So UC gets to say, hey, we want tuition to go up another $100. And students have very little say-so in that process, but we're the ones who are actually paying the salaries of the folks making decisions, right? Something is somewhat backwards about that, and to bite off of the gentleman earlier, right? Democracy is the idea that we get to have a say-so, right? It's the idea that we get to be a part of the decision-making process and the governance of those who are governed, right? Not only is it a governance question, like it's a pure, like it's an economics question. We're paying all this money to get this education. We should have a say-so on what the quality of the education should be, what the status of the education should be, what the cost of the education should be, particularly since students are the primary stakeholders, right? This was a company, this was a business, and we were the main shareholders. We would have the biggest voice, right? We're the main shareholders, but we have the least voice. So the free speech movement was designed to make sure that students had a more significant role in shaping the state of California's policies around education. Out of that, students from across the UC system were like, look, we need to do this, but we need to do it more consistently and more efficiently. And there's a recognition that almost every other special interest group in the state of California has very real, live advocates to advocate on their behalf in Sacramento and in local areas, right? If you're a police officer, regardless of whether or not you vote or not, there's somebody advocating on your behalf in Sacramento. If you're a union worker, there's somebody in Sacramento advocating on your behalf. If you're a teacher, there's somebody in Sacramento on local levels advocating on your behalf. But students who are funding our own education in very real ways often don't have advocates on our behalf. And what we do know about politics is that politics is the language of the spoken, right? Unspoken notions don't matter in politics. They don't matter in economics, right? And so what came out of this was this notion that there needs to be a UC student lobby, a lobby corp that was designed to make sure the voice of UC students was heard and represented in Sacramento, even though all UC students couldn't be in Sacramento. From this, all 9 campuses decided that there should be an external vice president's office. Shout out to Ms. Woods for holding it down, whose job really is to make sure that the voice of students is amplified to people outside of campus, right? So this is where we get external vice president's office. All 9 started at the same time because it was a collective agreement that we have to be advocating together and we have to have specific advocacy bodies to do this kind of work. This is a quote from ASUCI I really like. Campaigns just for the sake of moral strength. I believe that we want to do campaigns, we want to advocate on behalf of students. We really need to deliver real results in terms of how students' quality of life is being impacted. So some of the recent wins, in 2018 there were tuition rollbacks. I don't know if you all know that. Rollback $60. It's not a ton of money. It isn't. It really, really isn't. But when I was a student, tuition went up 30% twice. Right, and so getting any kind of rollback is the first time it's happened in like a decade. I think that's something that we're very proud of. Housing and food security initiatives, a lot of folks hadn't recognized until the last 5 years. The UCSA was a leader, a thought leader in this spectrum, that the cost of being a student isn't limited to tuition. Yes, tuition is there, but housing is a very real cost, especially since most of our campuses are in these very major metropolitan areas. Students literally haven't been able to afford to live and to afford to eat. And because of this campaign that we call SOS, Sustaining Our Students, now on most UC campuses, there's things like food pantries for students that are suffering from lack of access to food. There's things like housing initiatives to ensure that students that have been made houseless or homeless and don't have any external resources beyond themselves have some way to find sufficiency in life. Mandatory sexual violence training, I don't think I need to go in about why that one's important, but that was a campaign that UCSA helped to spearhead. And I do want to say this on the voice of students and the power of the student voice. A lot of people don't realize right now there's a major political and media issue, a hot button issue around sexual violence, sexual assault. A lot of folks don't realize that really erupted with students having an issue with the way sexual assaults were being handled on campus and how Title IX was not sufficient enough to protect students from their offenders or their attackers, right? So the whole movement around sexual assault right now, we don't realize a lot of times these kind of movements initiate with student-led work. Old business, we have a student regent, so we don't get a big say-so in the governance of the UC, but we have one little vote, and I don't say little to demean, but to say we should have more, but it is something that is unparalleled in a lot of other systems. Blue Vote Opportunity Plan was something UCSA fought for a few years ago, which said that students earning families earning under $60,000 a year wouldn't be expected to contribute when it comes to the cost of tuition. And then the student collective bargaining, which is essentially the idea that when unions are at the table bargaining for better deals, students should be there to have an eye to make sure things are going properly. So a little bit how UCSA works. We think about our work in 3 areas. We amplify the voice of students, meaning that we hear the needs and the concerns that students are experiencing, and we make it louder, right? The voice of 9 campuses is always going to outweigh the voice of 1 campus. So sometimes folks can be experiencing something at UC Santa Cruz or UC Berkeley, but it's not until all 9 campuses are having a very real experience that we can get a system-wide change. And often system-wide changes have greater longevity than campus-based changes. Then we organize. Not only do we hear the voice of the students, but more importantly, we help students figure out how do we take these ideas of change that we want to see and put in systems and structures so that we can actually get to those changes. And in my opinion, most importantly, develop and institutionalize. A lot of times what happens is you have a great body of Senate that has some great ideas, great progress, but then they graduate or they're not senators anymore. And often what happens when that happens is the wins that they were fighting for often get left to the wayside when they're no longer in position. So we have an actual paid full-time professional staff that's there to ensure that students are able to move the
time by 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. Students are able to move the progress forward even though students have a 4 to 6 year turnover ratio.
So were there any objections to the motion? Hearing seeing none, motion is adopted.
Thank you. Irvine and UCSA, this cool little population density map. Only to suggest that Irvine, like Los Angeles, is a major metropolitan in the state of California, and students make up a significant part of the population in the county, right? What does that mean? That means the student vote matters here, and that means when students do have a say-so, folks will have to listen in certain ways, right? So kind of like the example around sexual assault and sexual violence, how students really initiated that movement. This can be true in a lot of ways and on a spectrum of different issues, right? So it was good to hear the gentleman earlier talking about SB 54, because that's something that does impact students, and when students are engaged around an issue like that, it really can and will have an impact on how other stakeholders perceive the issue. How UCSA supports UC Irvine. One of my primary roles is to make sure I do like coaching and development for the external vice president's office and that person's staff personnel to ensure that their campaigns are actually getting up and being able to roll out. In addition to that, one of my big roles is to make sure that when we're actually organizing for wins that can have impact on students throughout the entire state, right? So we talk about the fact that there's food pantries at UCs throughout the state. That's very big, right? Because now students that literally didn't have food, right? And if you think about, you can't get too much more personal than that, than literally being able to put food inside of folks' refrigerators, pardon me. So these are some of the ways that we do. Other things that we do, he mentioned the Student Lobby Conference, which is really big. We do it every spring, where we take hundreds of students from throughout the UC system, take them to Sacramento and to lobby on behalf of UC students, right? That is one conference, but we actually have two other conferences. We have the Student of Color Conference, which is the largest conference UCSA puts on, where almost 1,000 students of color come every single year to engage around issues and activities that are relevant to the experience of students of color. We also have an annual organizing summit where we literally train students how to organize on campus around the issues that matter most to them. So I'm closing up now. Here are the four primary campaigns that we're working on this year. Racial Justice Now, and these are campaign blocks that we have every year, and then in bold, and then the pieces on specific target areas for this year. This year, our Racial Justice Now campaign is focused on developing support for ethnic, cultural, recruitment, and retention centers. So here at UC Irvine, that would be like SOAR. I don't know if y'all are familiar with SOAR, but SOAR does a lot of work to bring underrepresented minorities onto campus, to get them access to campus. So what our primary goal for the campaign this year is to increase funding for the SOAR equivalent system-wide and to increase efficiency. But the UC, one of the things that we see, not increasing the number of facilities to accommodate those students, right? So we find housing crises, we find classrooms that aren't big enough. These kind of problems were one of the big things that we actually were successful in doing last year. Last year we got a $45 million shot from the state to improve facilities, and we want to continue that work this year, as well as work for decreased tuition / increased resources for students that are going to UC. Choir is a campaign that we're really focused on quality of life for students, and this year we really want to focus on creating more robust support mechanisms for undocumented students. For example, UC offers legal aid for undocumented students to an extent, but it's not enough lawyers to accommodate the number of undocumented students UC has, right? So UC has a real problem of admitting and enrolling a certain number of students, but not matching the number of resources to the number of students that have been enrolled. And then lastly, get out the vote. We're shooting for 100,000 contacts this year, and really focusing on letting folks know about the various campaigns and propositions up on the radar. Most significant probably right now is Prop 10, which has to do with affordable housing. Is it folks familiar with Prop 10? Oh, great. Prop 10, in my last 10 seconds. Prop 10 has to do with repealing Costa-Hawkins, which was a law that said that rent control cannot be applied in most of the state, all of the state, for homes built after 1978. You had a campus like UC Irvine, which was built later, than a lot of other campuses. Then a lot of the apartments are new, and every year your rent is going up by 3%, 5%, right? And that could be managed and curtailed if the laws were changed. So that's my time, and I want to open up for any questions if there are any.
So I guess one question that I do have is, how involved is UCSA in the planning of a Students of Color Conference? Because I attended last year, and I'm sure you know the problems that we experienced last year. Yeah. So what I'm trying to get to is, what is UCSA going to do to address the problems that we had last year, make sure that doesn't happen again?
Yeah. Actually.
I move to extend time by 3 minutes. Second.
Are there any objections? Hearing and seeing none, time to extend.
Great. Actually, I wasn't on staff when that happened, but I am the person on staff that's going to be responsible for make sure there's a shift in that process and how that goes down. I actually just finished up a proposal that we're going to take to the board this weekend. The board meeting in Irvine. The board this weekend for how we can shift the conference and how we can shift and prevent some of that kind of difficult moments. And I think we have a pretty solid proposal, and I would encourage you to come by on Saturday so that you can invite. There is a plan, there's a strategy. This year, there'll be a re-envisioning summit as opposed to the fall conference, which will allow us to engage with student leaders from the communities of color to get their input and ideas for how to rebrand and reshape and refashion the conference itself.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, I hope you all know that UCSA is out here doing work for you all, and that your investment, your input, and your engagement is very valuable, it's very helpful. If you want to help with this work, please tap in with Holly, because there's plenty of avenues to help with. There's plenty of campaigns to be worked on, and we need all the help that we can get from students on the ground level. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it, and hopefully I'll be back before next quarter.
Oh, I just really wanted to echo the same sentiments that Salih was making. Please, 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 if you are willing and able, come out Emerald Bay A. We are there, we are here, the UCSA board meeting this Saturday and Sunday. So we will be talking about SOC, as Salih said, so just come out if you, in some capacity, would like to see what is going on, and second of all, weigh in with your thoughts. Public comment does begin at 10 a.m. each day, so you're more than welcome to be there.
Thank you. So, as that concludes, we'll now move on to item 2 under new business, R5407, appointment of Senate Secretary for 10 minutes. Will the officer please give a reading?
Okay. Whereas the position of Senate Secretary is currently unfilled, and whereas the Secretary is an integral part of Senate's ability to accurately report its doings to its constituents, and whereas the President of the Senate, the Rules Committee, and the Senate conducted a search and interviewed an applicant for the position, and therefore be appointed as the Senate Secretary for the 2018 to 2019 academic year.
Yes?
Motion call or question R5407
Second.
by acclamation.
Are there any objections? All right, all those in favor of this resolution, please raise your hands. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, hearing and seeing none, this motion passes unanimously. R5407 is adopted. We'll now move on to our next item on the agenda. So our next item on the agenda is R5408, Formation of Advocacy Committee. Will the officer please give a reading?
Point of information. Oh wait, never mind.
Yes?
Never mind. I read it wrong.
Whereas many senators have been assigned to new committees at the beginning of fall quarter for the 2018-2019 academic year, and whereas all Senate members are required to sit in a standing committee, and therefore let it be resolved that the advocacy committee will be composed of the following members, with more members to be added if seen necessary: Randy Ann Chair, Ebonu Vice Chair, Jessica Gabra, Sophia Nunes.
Yes.
Do you guys know for the advocacy committee?
So it's actually something that we can discuss now, is if we believe that we do need to move more members to the advocacy committee, now would be a time to make an amendment. Yes.
I actually drafted the legislation for the formation of finance, and I put there in the therefore clause that the President of the Senate could move any members to finance, could add or reduce the members of finance. So yeah.
Okay.
And also for Rules Committee,
we haven't sent ours in yet in case you want to reallocate numbers.
Yeah, exactly. That was why I also waited. So like,
So are there any members here, like currently present from Rules of Finance who, first, before I do make a decision on if we need to move senators around, are there any members from Rules of Finance who would be willing to move to advocacy? Okay. So then, if you'll permit me just one moment to look at our attendance records. Yeah, so I can go. Yes.
Motion to commit to rules. Second.
Are there any objections? Right, hearing and seeing none, this motion is adopted. This resolution is committed to rules. Next on the agenda is R5409, Formation of Public Information Committee. Will the author please give a reading?
Whereas the 2018-2019 academic school year has begun, and newly elected Senate members do not currently reside in a standing committee, and whereas all Senate members are required to sit in a standing committee, and therefore let it be resolved that the Public Information Committee will be composed of the following members, with more members to be added if seen necessary. Parveen Shergill, Chair, Devin Gill, Vice Chair, Emma Danhash, Monica Halaka, Jessica Gabra, Amrita Santu, Gurpreet Ugu.
Right, Jessica?
Oh, yes, so Senator Gabra is mentioned in both.
I move to amend this legislation to remove Senator Jessica Dabra from the resolution. Second.
Are there any objections?
Object.
All right, so we'll now go into a roll call vote on the objection. In the affirmative, if you would like
point of
to.
information, are we allowed to discuss on the objection first?
Oh, yes, we can. My apologies.
So Jessica, which committee do you want to be in?
I'm fine with whatever. It's just because Emma told Liam that I could be in public info, but if you need people for advocacy, I'll do it.
Yeah, so the reason that I believe for the mix-up is because senators who were absent were placed in the advocacy committee because they did not have enough senators to conduct business. So that's why originally I did have you assigned to the advocacy committee.
So Senator Gabra said that I asked you. So basically, can I explain my reasoning? Okay, so all the other members on this committee are like new members of the Senate. So we thought that it would be helpful to at least have one returning member or one returning senator to like kind of guide us. So that was our logic, seeing as the other committees do have more returning senators.
So the objection is still on the floor. So is there any further discussion on this motion?
On information.
Yes.
So objection needs to be second.
No, an objection is
Of the second.
yeah.
Point of information.
Yes.
So if we vote in the affirmative for the objection, that it doesn't repeal her name from the.
Yes, I can go ahead and explain the voting. So if you vote in the affirmative, then you are voting to strike out Jessica Gabra from this legislation, which would instead place her in the advocacy committee, pending the passing of that legislation. If you are voting in the negative on this objection or on this motion, then Jessica Gabra would remain on this legislation. So are there any comments? I will now move on to a roll call vote, so if the secretary would take the vote.
Senator Gabra,
I'll abstain.
Senator Cervantes,
Yes.
Senator Lee,
Yes.
Senator Lopez Polito.
No.
Senator Danhash.
No.
Senator Rubalcaba.
Yes.
Senator Damavandi.
Abstain.
Senator Yan.
Abstain.
Senator Lim. Senator Liu.
Abstain.
Senator Martinez.
Yes.
Senator Gunaman.
Abstain.
Senator Saba.
Yes.
Senator Kudiakosi.
Abstain.
Senator Artunian.
Abstain.
Senator Halaka.
No.
Senator Sanhu.
No.
Senator Shergill.
No.
Senator Gill.
No.
Senator Calderon.
Yes.
Senator Chi.
Abstain.
Senator Artunian, you abstained, correct?
Wait. I'm ready.
You are here, Matt?
I said I was present.
Okay. But I didn't call for your vote, did I? Okay, how do you vote?
Yes.
If I don't call your name, please let me know. So with that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yeses, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 noes.
All right, with 8 yeses and 6 noes, this motion passes. Senator Gabra is removed from this legislation.
And 8 abstentions.
And any abstentions. My apologies. So the motion passes. Is there any other discussion on this legislation?
I move to call into question R5409 by acclamation.
Is there a second?
Can we,
Oh, wait.
wait, should we move this to rules too?
Yeah.
Is there a motion on the
I move to
floor?
commit to a rules committee.
Second. Are there any objections? Hearing and seeing none, this resolution is committed to rules. We'll now move on to the next item on the agenda.
I motion to go into closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any objections?
You know what?
Is there like a reason?
Do I have to say it in when we're not in session?
If you choose to not.
Why, like one of the 3 reasons in our bylaws.
Oh, it's for personnel matters?
Is it possible that we finish everything in the agenda first today?
Well, I
So,
second
well,
the motion.
the motion was seconded, so if there are no objections, then we will go into closed session.
There was an objection.
Okay, was there an objection?
No.
For how long? How long?
Yeah.
For 5 minutes? Oh, 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Alright.
Okay.
So hearing and seeing no objections, we'll now move on into closed session. At this time, I would like to ask any members of the public to please step out for the duration of the session.
Chair, the light is still running.
And then I'm a person who's getting results.
Yeah.